איך לי מלא בושה, ואיך אבוא ואין לי מה, רק לי מה אפני בחיי, קל וחומר כשאמות, ראה אותי אבי ואלוקיי חסר זהות, ואתה יצרת בי את כל היותי, ונתת באפר גם חלק אלוקי, בכל זמן שנשמה פועמת בי רוצה אני לקיים ולא לחדור, בכל זמן שאתה רואה אותי תחזיק אותי חזק שלא אבוא, ריבון כל המעשים, אדון כל הנשמות, את שכתה מלפניך תישא, כי לא צדק וקטנה מילה, הסליחה לך דומיית תהילה, מאמר על מסע, ומכל תלאות הדרך הקשה כשלו רגליי, ואתה תרים אותי מכל שפלות ליבי, וכמו אב רחום עכשיו תטהר אותי, בכל זמן שנשמה פועמת בי רוצה אני לקיים ולא לחדור, בכל זמן שאתה רואה אותי תחזיק אותי חזק שלא אפול, ריבון כל המעשים, אדון כל הנשמות, בכל זמן שנשמה פועמת בי רוצה אני לקיים ולא לחדור, בכל זמן שאתה רואה אותי תחזיק אותי חזק שלא אפול, שנשמה פועמת בי לקיים ולא לחדור, רואה אותי תחזיק אותי שלא אפול. בין הטיפות ואין גבולות, לבן בהיר קשה לראות, פציעה קטנה בעולמי, הכל כל כך כמעט שקוף, הכל כל כך כמעט חשוף, רוצה לדרוך כאן עם כל אהבה, ועכשיו כמו מאב אלוקים ייתן בי כוח להמשיך כמו כולם את הקושי לנצח, אם בשביל זה אני קיים בעולם לוותר, יש לי חלום אליי הוא בא, כמה פסיעות משל כולם ונחלים יהיו לים, ללב גדול פתוח לשיר חדש. ועכשיו כמו מאב אלוקים ייתן לי כוח להמשיך כמו כולם את הקושי לנצח. בשביל זה אני קיים בעולם, אבי הראה לי את הדרך בשבילי וליה לדרך שיר קטן בלב ומתוכי תפילה אחת יוצא, תן לי את הרגש לתת כולם את הקושי לנצח. בשביל זה אני קיים בעולם, אבי הראה לי את הדרך בשבילי. אלוקים ייתן בי כוח להמשיך כמו כולם את הקושי לנצח. ים בעולם, אבי הראה לי את הדרך בשבילי, הראה לי את הדרך בשבילי. אני רואה שקיעה יפה של שמש מאירה, כשהעולם עטוף שתיקה מזמין את הדממה, מביא איתו את החלום וללב שלי תקווה, ולי נותר רק לחכות להגשמה. זה הזמן שלי לברוח אל עולם של ילדים, זה הזמן שלי לעוף איתם בלי לחפש מילים, הרצון שלי לחבור כאן עולם מלא צבעים, יהיה בו די ישיב אליי את החיים. כבר היו בי עוד אורות בשלל גוונים, והם קבעו פניי יום, נותרו רק כוכבים, כי בלילות ליבי נפתח לחיות את החלום, וילד אז בי נכנס אומר שלום. שלי לברוח אל עולם של ילדים. זה הזמן שלי לעוף איתם, לי לחפש מילים. הרצון שלי לחבור כאן עולם מלא צבעים, יהיה בו דק ישיב אליי את החיים. עולם של ילדים, זה הזמן שלי לעוף איתם, לי לחפש מילים. הרצון שלי לחבור כאן עולם מלא צבעים, יהיה בו דק ישיב אליי. אזכור את הדרך שהייתה בי נחרטת, וטלית נעטפו הימים, ואת הגיטרה שהייתה בי פורטת על חולות הזהב החמים. בשביל לבית הכנסת רוח ערב פורסת את סעיף השקיעה העבודה. ערב נכנסת אותה שעה של חסד ותפילה אחת בודדה, אשיר לכם שירים לבית אבי, אשיר לכם על גביע יין, הלב בין מלך ונביא, והלב זוכר כל שיר עדיין, אשיר לכם שירים לבית אבי, אשיר לכם על גביע יין, הלב בין מלך ונביא, והלב זוכר כל שיר עדיין. לא אשכח לילות הזוהר, ים של תכלת ועודן, חלום שהלך ולא חזר, את אותו העולם שהיה כאן מקודם, והיום לא יבין אותו לבזר. בשביל לבית הכנסת רוח ערב פורסת את סעיף השקיעה עבודה. עם ערב נכנסת אותה שעה של חסד ותפילה אחת בודדה, אשיר לכם שירים לבית אבי, אשיר לכם על גביע יין, הלב בין מלך ונביא, והלב זוכר כל שיר עדיין, אשיר לכם שירים לבית כבר כל השדות הפורחים. כנראה שקבעו הנרות ונותרנו לבד בחושך לטעות. כנראה זהו סוף הימים, כבר התחלנו לראות סימנים, הגלים מנסים לטפס, להגיע ממך לבקש. כנראה זהו סוף הימים, כבר התחלנו לראות סימנים, ונוכל ויהיה לנו קל להגיע למעלה מעל לכל. ניצן של תקווה בליבנו יפרח. כנראה שהשחר עולה, מביט בשתיקה לנו לא מגלה. כנראה שהגענו לסוף, אין מה לשנות, לדחוף. אז כנראה זהו סוף הימים, כבר התחלנו לראות סימנים, הגלים מנסים לטפס, להגיע ממך לבקש. כנראה זהו סוף הימים, כבר התחלנו לראות סימנים, לא נוכל ויהיה לנו כאן להגיע למעלה מעל לכל. קל להגיע למעלה מעל לכל עטפה בחום את נשמתי. לך ודרכך תצלח, אתה כבר יודע ללכת, תגיע לבד למקום האמיתי. יממה ברכתי לך, בנית את עולמי, לי שם נתת, אותי אהבת בכל צורה שהיא. יממה ברכתי לך, בנית את עולמי. את דאגותיי רק היא הבינה, ושמרה תמיד על מקומי. זאת אותה איתה תיקח, ידיי תמיד קצת מעבר למה שבחרתי לבוא ולגלות. יממה ברכתי לך, בנית את עולמי, לי שם נתת, אותי אהבת בכל צורה שהיא. יממה ברכתי לך, בנית את עולמי. עכשיו אני מודה לך, רחוק אבל שייך לך, שאושר רק תדעי. יממה, מאמה שלי. שבחרתי לבוא ולגלות. יממה ברכתי לך, בנית את עולמי, לי שם נתת, אותי אהבת בכל צורה שהיא. יממה בנית את עולמי. אם אשכח דמותך אשכח את ימיני, ירושלים את מסעת כל לבני, ולזכרך בראש כל שמחתי, וביום אבלך אפר על ראשי. אני נשבע את ימיני. ירושלים את מסעת כל לבני, ולזכרך בראש כל שמחתי, וביום בברך אפרה ראשי. ירושלים את מסעת כל לבני, ולזכרך בראש כל שמחתי, וביום אבלה אפרה על ראשי.
It's time to come out of the Matrix.
Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain. The great Oz has spoken.
This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill. The story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to. You take the red pill. You stay in Wonderland.
Welcome, everyone, to Beyond the Matrix, Jewish Answers for Life and Faith. I'm your host, Ira Michelson, along with my co-host,
Rod Bryant.
If you're listening right now, it's because you made the decision to unplug and join the real world.
Look, you're not going to find anyone controlling things from behind the curtain here. No need to click your heels 3 times. Just make the choice between the blissful ignorance of illusion or embrace the sometimes painful truth of reality.
We have an exciting show for you today, so get strapped in as we go beyond the Matrix.
The Matrix.
The Matrix.
I like that.
So,
gets me all excited.
Are you talking like John Leguizamo again?
Yes, it gets me all excited.
So, welcome everybody to the politically incorrect and Torah correct Beyond the Matrix with your 3, count them 3 today hosts.
The Tres Amigos.
Myself, Ira Michelson. My co-host,
Rod Bryant.
And the ever-popular Rabbi,
ever confounding,
Tovia Singer.
It's a big pleasure to have me on, and I'm glad to join you. Yes. I'm here.
It's a real pleasure to
You're
have
here.
you on, right?
Yes.
It's a pleasure having you on. Yes.
Okay.
Anyway, so what we wanted to do today was a little bit different. It's not different. I mean, we're probably still going to spend at least 5 or 6 minutes insulting each other. But then what we want to do is we want to talk about our upcoming tour in October 19th to the 30th, the Beyond the Matrix Let's Get Biblical tour that the three of us are going to be hosting. So we wanted to get into some interesting details about that. And then while we're on the subject of Israel, with the good rabbi being in the land right now, looking out his window, overlooking...
He has his finger on the pulse
I'm speaking.
of the land.
I was speaking. What's wrong with you?
He's hungry, man. He's hungry.
I'm ready.
He's in Texas.
Let's get with it.
I'm standing here looking at the Temple Mount. You can't blame him. Let him do it. It's all right. That's okay. if the situation were reversed, I'd be going out of my mind. I tell you honestly.
What do you mean going?
Go ahead. Go for it.
What do you mean going? You've arrived going.
Yeah, you've already taken the short
You've made the trip.
Yeah.
The journey is over.
Yeah.
The tour is secondary. Anyway, but no, we have a godly jealousy today. That Rabbi Tovia is able to look out his window and see the Temple Mount from where he's standing. And so what we wanted to do is we're going to segue after we talk about the tour today. We're going to segue into putting our fingers on the pulse with Rabbi Singer in Eretz Yisrael, giving us an idea of what it's like on the ground there with the whole peace process, with the negotiations, with the, once again, pressure being put on the Israeli government to make what some would term painful concessions. So we want to talk about that. And, of course, ever being politically incorrect here, giving our take on what we think about that whole issue. What we're going to do right now is get into the whole subject of the tour, and we have with us today from ITC, which is the tour company that we're using, Mickey Zoldan. Mickey is one of my new best friends. He did me a real solid a couple of months ago. We had one of those encounters. He and his cohort walked into the office of my shul expecting to meet with the rabbi, who found out they were coming and left for Israel. And it's funny because the gentleman that was with him from the office, I recognized the guy's voice, and it turns out that I had talked to him several months before about, bringing a tour to Itamar to visit Rabbi Moshe, and we ended up sitting down and spending an hour together, and I walked away from that thinking, hey, you know what? We need to do a Beyond the Matrix tour. So, Mickey, welcome to the show.
Great to be here, guys, and amazing just to listen to your banter.
Yeah, that's what they say about us.
Yeah, all the men say that about us.
So if I might, I'd like to tell everybody a little bit about the company and talk a little bit about tour, if you guys are ready for that.
Absolutely.
Well, our company, Israel Tour Connection, started 29 years ago by Larry and Marlene Ritter on their return from an Israel trip that their rabbi finally convinced them to attend. Larry came back, really just jazzed about Israel, and he couldn't believe that it took him that long to get there, and said, I have to get other people to go. And so from around their kitchen table grew one of the largest Israel travel providers in the United States. We, at this point, probably take about 120 groups a year of various denominations and religions. Home office is in Livingston, New Jersey. We have an office in Jerusalem, and also here in Cleveland. The trip itself, the program was put together by Barbara, our vice president in Israel. Basically, our mode of operation is such now that, we're all working together. There is an individual that will be your tour manager, located out of our Livingston, New Jersey office, who is there for every question Monday through Friday all day. I'm kind of a moving target, so it's really a little bit better to work with somebody in the office. They will be entirely familiar with the tour, everything that goes along with it. We have another individual in the office that handles all of our air. They don't do anything else but air. So everyone that's going to be going on the program can either work through our person, which I heartily suggest, or they can do their air on their own. And there is also a website that, is put together for the group, israeltours.com/getbiblical.html, where your itinerary and applications and, the ability to pay for the tour and basically all kinds of information with regards to cell phone rental and travel insurance and just general Israel travel information is all located on that page.
Good. So let me ask you a question about that, because you brought up the ability for you guys to do air. One of the things that questions that we're starting to get from people, obviously, is the issue of, and I don't know that it's really a confusion, but people are asking the question about that, about how they book. For instance, we have on there two prices. We have a price for land only, and then there's a price for air in there as well. And
Right.
We've been recommending, really, because this is not your typical group tour, let's say from a synagogue where everybody's getting on, the plane together and everybody's getting on a bus together. We're going to have people coming from all over the country and probably even some people coming from different countries, all converging on Israel, and then, working the logistics of getting everybody together, on the bus and getting there. So with that said, I think it's important that people understand that they can do it, that we set it up in this way for people to do a land-only package so that people can use their points, if they have points, to upgrade or whatever points they want to use, but that people can also, it's very important to know that if you don't have a travel agent, that there is going to be somebody at ITC that they can call to book their air.
Absolutely. And as I said, the individual in our office is not a tour person. She's not involved in the plans with regard. She is an airline person. Her screen in front of her is connected to the airlines. And, frankly, we would love to have everybody get to New York and leave, from New York together, because we do believe that, traveling together is also part of the tour. And so if you do deal with our person in the office in New Jersey, that, to facilitate that will be much easier.
Sure. So we have a question in the chat room. Somebody wrote, if we've already registered, how can we get confirmation of the registration?
If it's less than a week ago, what will happen is every week, Ira will get a report of everyone who has registered. You can always, please, feel free to call the office and ask, hey, did you get my stuff? I mean, you're not going to be bothering anyone. And I will probably Monday, if not Monday, probably Tuesday, I will let Ira know who your actual tour manager is.
Okay, great. So that answers that question. Why don't we get into the itinerary a little bit and give people an idea of what this tour is going to look like, and and Rod and Rabbi, feel free to jump in and talk about anything you want to as it relates to the different sites that we're going to be visiting.
Sure, no problem. I'll just go through it, generally, because believe you me, and I know, as it's been said in movies in the past, a man's got to know his limitations, and I am not a tour guide. The tour educators in Israel are amazing people, highly educated, with continuing education programs. We certainly feel that we have a cadre of the best tour educators around, and after 25, 28 years of utilizing different people, we certainly do have our favorites. Yeah. The tour, after landing in Tel Aviv at Ben Gurion, you will be met there by an ITC representative. Once you get through passport control, you will get your luggage, and from there, go out to your bus and meet your tour educator and your bus driver, who are your tour educator and bus driver throughout the program. They're with you 24/7, so they know exactly what's going on with whom, and anytime you need something, the tour educator is the guy to go to. You will make your way from Ben Gurion towards Jerusalem. Interesting things to see on the way there. The Latrun IDF Armor Corps Museum, and at Latrun there have been, battles fought throughout, history. So there's a lot to see and learn there. And please, as you said, do chime in, guys, if there's something that you do want to add. Traveling on the road between Tel Aviv and Jerusalem is just an interesting experience in and of itself. There are relics and memorials at the side of the road from the old battles. Once you do get to Jerusalem, you will proceed to the Haz Promenade, and this is a spot, according to Jewish legend, that from that location, it was where God showed Avraham Avinu where, his descendants would build their holy city. It's really an amazing view. From there, you will go check into the hotel and have your welcome dinner and overnight in Jerusalem.
One of the things I just want to share with the listeners, I sometimes watch these programs in the United States where they have these like antiques where they show like these Tiffany artistic lamps from 1888, and it's so beautiful and it's old and it's worth $18,000. This is because it's an antique. It's an antique. That's why it's worth so much. In Israel, this would be modern art. Just so people understand one point. The modern part of the experience is going to be Ben Gurion Airport. It's a fabulous airport. Landing there is be exquisite. But from the moment we leave the airport and begin to make our way up to Jerusalem, we can leave all that 1800s, all that stuff is modern. We're going to be walking through the Bible itself, through Scripture itself, and it's absolutely exquisite. When we come into Yerushalayim, of course, everything changes, and the experience is extraordinary. I think the listeners have a sense of maybe we're going to be seeing a second temple. We're going to be seeing the Western Wall. Certainly, we're going to be descending into the first temple period as well. We're going to be descending into places like the city of David, which is absolutely extraordinary. One of the places that will literally be walking through the Bible itself, walking in the places where the prophets preached, within miles of the places that we're going to be going in this extraordinary area of the land of Israel, not just here, but in the north and the south. It's going to be a remarkable experience, literally walking through Scripture.
Sure,
That's what I think.
Yeah, I don't think people understand it. Well, I mean, people who have been to the land certainly understands, but the people who have never been there, they don't understand how the climate changes as you ascend into Yerushalayim, as you enter Ir HaKodesh, the holy city. When you go to some of these sites, I mean, the air is different. It's different than any other place, even in Israel. It's electric,
right?
With the presence of the Shekhinah, the presence of Hashem, wherever you go. So,
yeah. Well, in the United States, if you want to change, let's just talk about air for a moment. If you want to change the climate and you're in New York, so yeah, you can get on a flight and travel whatever it is, 1,300 miles, and then you're in Miami and you have this change. When you land in Ben Gurion Airport, you're obviously in the let's just call it the greater Tel Aviv area, and it's a warm, more humid climate. And by the time you get to Jerusalem, which is just a 45-minute drive, you're in a different environment. The Jerusalem is elevated; it's above sea level, and the climate is extraordinary. It's almost this perfect temperature, but the spiritual, the texture of Yerushalayim just hits you. It bolts you like there's nothing. There are no words that I can convey on here right now that could possibly prepare any of the people who will be joining us on this tour of Eretz Yisrael, the Holy Land. And there's only one place on earth that's called the Holy Land for what you will encounter in a place like Jerusalem, in places in the north, what you will see, what you will feel. And in fact, there are no words. You will see it, you'll feel it, you'll understand it. And one of the reasons why a tour guide is very important in the land of Israel, which is a relatively small place, only about 26,000 square kilometers, is that every square foot, every movement you turn, there's another enormous place, there's this exquisite sight. I mean, it's not just this is what happened here, and you're just looking at an empty field. Like if you're in the United States, you'd say this is where a certain battle of the Civil War. No, you actually see it when you're in the city of David, which is just south of the old city of Jerusalem. You see it. You see the Shiloh. You see the places of Scripture. You see the place where Jerusalem was able to be captured, where the water was able to be brought into Jerusalem during the days of Hezekiah. But the actual ancient wall of Jerusalem existed. Now it's in the Jewish quarter of the old city. It's there. You could touch it. You could see it. That's what we're going to be walking through. But literally, it's every step is going to be another phase, another transition, another chapter in the Bible.
Yeah, and to show you how serious the rabbi's words are, how serious he is about this, when I originally was talking about planning on us going to the north first, he told me he'd have to throw himself out of the plane if we didn't go to Jerusalem first.
I didn't say that exactly, but
well,
it
sounded like that to us.
Passing Jerusalem, that would be like, what?
Well, I didn't say passing Jerusalem. I just said we were going to start in the north and then be in Jerusalem for Shabbos, you know.
Well, and it did require a rewrite, but we were more than happy.
Right. So tell us a little bit more, Mickey.
Well, and you know, the rabbi just pretty much paraphrased a lot of what I would want to say, and that, you know, Israel is about the size of New Jersey, and within Israel there are 5, you know, of the climate zones that you find, you know, around the world. So there is desert, there is the Golan Heights, there are the Galilee for the forests, there's the beaches, there's the coastal plains. So within this little teeny tiny country that, you know, you can drive across in 45 minutes or so, and from top to bottom in you know 7 hours, you know, given on a good day, you can see an amazing amount of nature, history, archaeology. You know, it covers everything, and pretty much your tour does the same. It covers ancient Israel, it covers modern Israel, and everything kind of in between historically. When you go into the Jewish quarter, it's palpable. I mean, you can feel that it's a different place. This is not you know, it's not Fifth Avenue in New York. This is something that's,
so it's not
while
like,
you're on vacation, but it's got more presence than anything that you have ever experienced before.
So it's not Lakewood.
No, and it's important to remember that Israel is about the size of New Jersey, but if John Kerry has its way, it'll be about the size of Mickey's house in Ohio. So, but just the point what Mickey just said, and you, the listener, just listen like you've never listened in your life. So as you're heading up north, you see, you know, when you hear the Golan, you have to understand what it means, the Golan. So as you're coming to the Sea of Galilee, which is a lake, okay? It's a freshwater lake. It's called the sea, but there's a little country. But as you're approaching just the southern tip of the lake, you just look up to your right, and you see the towering Golan Heights. Listen to me, holy children of the Most High. In the last hours of the Six-Day War, our sons had to run up that Golan Heights to capture it because Moshe Dayan was very reluctant, and ultimately they were given arrows, and the UN was fighting, and the USSR was going to get involved, and our sons gave their lives to that Golan. You'll understand the strategic importance of this part of the land of Israel. So you are walking through the Bible, you are walking through history, but I will not lie to you. You should know that every place, holy brothers and sisters, that you're going to put your foot, there's blood that was paid for so that you could step there. No piece of land there is free. Right. Every piece of land was paid for with blood.
Yeah, I think one of the highlights for me always is going to, to the Valley of Tears, and hearing the story of Oz 77, the tank battalion that stood against the Syrian army, and to see the hand of Hashem in that. And the fact that the city just on the other side of the border still remains empty to this day, the Syrian city, and when people hear the story of how, how this miracle took place.
I'm sure that when you are standing on the peak of Har Ben Tal and you're at the Army bunkers, and there are the little silhouettes there. I don't know if you guys have ever been, specifically there before, but it's one of the premier vantage points into Quneitra, which is the quote-unquote ghost city,
Right.
which is an amazing story and one that tour educators relish telling.
Right.
So the fact that you are going to Ben Tal is also serious as far as the educational portion, because standing there, and Rabbi, I don't mean to beat to death what you have said, but standing there on Har Ben Tal, there's no way that you do not
Did we lose Mickey?
I think we did.
Did we lose you, Rabbi?
Hey, we finally got rid of him. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear. Oh, we got rid of who?
Oh, there they are.
Who's with us?
you guys.
Go ahead.
We lost both of you for a couple of seconds.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm here.
Go ahead.
So you were
So,
saying
I don't know
when
what
you're
you might have
standing there.
heard there.
You were saying when you're standing there, there's no way of not, and then we lost you.
Oh, okay. So when you're standing on Har Ben Tal and you're at the bunkers and you're looking out over Quneitra, there is no way in the world that you will at that moment not fully understand the importance of the Golan Heights as far as security is concerned.
Sure.
Right.
Again, there are arguments on both sides. Give it back, keep it. Give it back, keep it. But even inside of those arguments, no one can argue the fact of the importance of the area.
Right. So, any other highlights that you want to mention to us?
Well, along with a lot of these things, there's a lot of fun stuff that you're going to do. Chocolate making and wine tasting, and up on the, in the Galilee, you're going to have dinner with, a group of Israeli soldiers who will be, sharing with you their life experiences. There's a lot of things here that we really haven't touched upon, but, basically, you're going to go to the Dead Sea and spend the night there and spend Shabbat in Jerusalem.
Right, and so for the listeners, two things that we want to, a couple of things. When we spend Shabbat in Jerusalem, we're going to be joined by Rabbi Avraham Greenbaum from Azamra. Some of you already know Rabbi Greenbaum. It's Rod's rabbi in Yerushalayim. And we're also going to be heading up to Itamar. We're going to be spending a day in Itamar, up in the Shomron, with Rabbi Moshe Goldsmith, my rabbi in Israel. We're going to be having some learning sessions, besides the fact that we're going to have Rabbi Tover Singer with us the entire time. And you're going to hear the three of us, along with the tour guide, speaking, from Tanakh. So this is going to be above and beyond what people are used to on a typical tour to Israel, with the amount of education that you're going to receive and going directly into the Hebrew scriptures, and just uncovering the nuggets, but being able to be there on the ground, not listening on the radio. The other thing that we will probably do, if it can be set up, is we may actually do a live broadcast from the land of Beyond the Matrix.
Oh yeah,
with the three of us. So that's exciting. What kind of perks can people expect from ITC, if any, Mickey? Before we let you go today.
Well, if you're talking about things like receiving a hat and a little backpack or a bottle holder, of course, those are the things that come with basically almost every tour in this day and age. But really, I'd have to say that the most important thing as far as working with ITC is the fact that, number one, you will have a tour manager, somebody that you can go to at any given time prior to departure, find out anything you need to find out. If they don't happen to know, they will find out for you. Anybody with medical issues, if you have to bring a CPAP machine, or you have insulin, or you have any kind of things that need to be, attention given to these situations, those are the things that you bring to the attention of the tour manager.
yeah.
And please do not hesitate to contact them. And as I said, I will get to that, by Tuesday the latest, as to who is going to be that person.
Right.
And all you folks out there that are listening, if you do have questions, please don't hesitate to call them, because they're more than happy to answer them. and they sure, do want you to feel comfortable about your trip.
Yeah. Somebody just posted in the chat room, Israel tour on steroids.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Well, it's certainly, we're fairly ambitious, when we put together the itineraries to make sure that, there is enough to do during the day. And, it has been known that occasionally a group will say, okay, Uncle, we don't want to go any further today. Can we just go back? And, that is entirely up to you folks, but we certainly want to make sure that there is enough during the day so that, you're occupied.
Sure. So somebody in our chat room, one of our listeners, was with you guys on their last tour and just said that ITC is really great. So there's kudos to you guys.
All right. Way to go.
What about the climate in October?
Fairly pleasant. You're just coming on towards the rainy season, so hopefully, it'll hold off for you. But the temperatures are very pleasant in October. Evenings, you certainly do need to bring, something to throw on, a fleece or something like that. And of course, layering is always the way to go. Rain jacket wouldn't be a bad idea at that point because, it could. God willing, it could rain in Israel. So, excuse me. Basically all of that kind of stuff will be on your webpage for Israel basic information.
Right. Okay. Well, Mickey, I want to thank you for being on with us today.
Really my pleasure.
And giving the information again for people that want to check it out. They can go to www.israeltours.com/getbiblical.html. And,
right, and the 800 number for the office in Israel is 800-2-ISRAEL.
The number 2?
Correct.
And then Israel.
Correct. So anybody needs to find out anything, please feel free to call the office there. And we're just thrilled to pieces to be working with you folks, and we're going to put together a great time.
Thanks so much, Mickey. Have a great week.
Thank you.
Okay, you guys as well.
We'll have the tour checked out by John Kerry immediately, so make sure. Thanks so much for joining us.
So that's an interesting way to segue into what we want to talk about now, Rabbi.
I just, one thing. Thank you, Mickey. Thank you so much for joining us. I can't wait to see you.
Have a great day.
All right,
you too.
Beautiful. Just so the listeners understand, we call this a Let's Get Biblical tour. We talk about Itamar, like who's Itamar? What is Itamar?
Right.
Itamar is. You talked about this?
No, I say you go ahead and talk about it. Yeah.
No, I mean, Itamar is the youngest. This is Exodus 28. This is the youngest son of Aaron, the high priest, who's buried right there. I mean, you the listener, have to understand what we're talking about. In Yiddish, there's a very Yiddish net and trit. Every place you're going to move and turn is going to be places that are absolutely soaring. One thing I think the listeners who've not been to the land of Israel need to understand this point, which I sort of try to convey, which is very important. In the United States, it's a big country, and you have to travel far to have a radical change of weather. In Israel, quite literally, you're in Jerusalem, which is, I may be off on this, but I think it's 900 meters above sea level. So Jerusalem is absolutely exquisite weather. I mean, it's like 77 degrees, 75 degrees, like almost no humidity. It's just perfect. But you could drive down to the Dead Sea and it's like, 90 degrees. Right. Or you could go to Eilat and go scuba, snorkeling or whatever. You could be in a desert in 45 minutes. You could be on the top of a mountain in the Golan in an hour and a half. This is inconceivable to somebody in the United States. But the places, the dramatic changes within literally a few minutes of driving is really inconceivable to someone who's living in the United States or someone who's living in Canada. Forget about it. There's someone who's living in another part. Every place has a completely different climate. There's no hyperbole here. Sure. It's quite literally so. And everything we're going to be doing is going right through Scripture, going through the Bible, reading it, and looking at the places. And again, it's not like you're going to be looking at a field and I'm say, on this field it happened. No, you're going to see it. You're going to see the Shiloh, the waterway on which when King David was dying in the beginning of First Kings, and there was a crisis, who should be the next king, and there came Bathsheba and said, that Solomon was the one to be the next king, and David said, take him above the Shiloach, and have him anointed. Do you know that? He came with Nathan, the prophet. So they took him, it says, on top of the Shiloach. We're going to go there literally on top of the Shiloach. We didn't quite know why it says on top of the Shiloach in the text. But in fact, it is on top of it. We're going to see on top. In fact, we're going to see the stone that has in the ancient Hebrew writing the word Natan in the stone. I mean, holy people, this is what we're going to be seeing. I mean, we're going to see the Bible come alive right in front of your eyes. Nothing short of that.
And when you talk about climates, even I was going to say aside from the spiritual, but there is nothing aside from the spiritual. I mean, when you're talking about different climates, from snow up on the mountains to being down in the desert, to Eilat, the produce. I mean, just to walk through the Shuk, Machane Yehuda, and to see the produce, you've never tasted food like this in your life. Right. My sister, didn't want to go for so many years. She was one of those people. It's afraid, it's dangerous. And I finally convinced her. My sister was a vice president with American Express, traveled all over the world. And she was just blown away by the quality of the food, by the quality of produce. And with all the places that she's been in the world, she said there's no place like Israel.
Oh, yeah. I mean, first of all, if you just think of it logically, if something is in the United States, if you're eating a grapefruit, so it's grown in Florida, let's say, and you're eating it in New York, so that thing in Israel, it's grown 3 blocks away. So it's gebenched, it's blessed by Hashem. So it's really, it's something, the Machne Yehuda is really just an extraordinary place. It's right there. The old city, incidentally, for those of you who may not understand this, it's not even a square, not mile, not even a square kilometer. It's a very small area. You talk about safety. I'll just give you a statistic. I don't care where you are in the United States. Your city can't match this. The last murder in the old city of Yerushalayim took place on August 22nd, 2005. That's the last time someone was murdered in the old city of Yerushalayim. So we're talking about one of the things that people are stunned by is how safe and relaxed and how comfortable. That's what is very striking to people immediately. They feel completely relaxed and just taken in by everything around them.
I've never felt safer in my life than walking the streets of Yerushalayim. And people say it's dangerous. I go, really? When was the last time you heard about a mugging? Here in the United States, or a home invasion, or a carjacking? I said, those things are non-existent in Israel. A woman doesn't have to walk down the street and worry about somebody grabbing her purse and dragging her in the street. It's just a completely different environment.
Yeah. I mean, we won't go through the statistics now, but that's what I mean. And one of the other things I'll say, and we've all been to Eretz Yisrael so many times, to the Holy Land. There is, and if you've gotten the same feeling, there's everything you see has within it, of course, when you see the Temple Mount, when you see the Western Wall, so in one way it's a sadness because you're looking at destruction, right? There's even a tradition that when one gazes upon the Temple Mount, some people tear their clothing in sadness. So there is, in a sense, the Western Wall is the remnant of the destruction of the Second Temple, right? So one would think that, well, this is a very sad thing. But bear in mind that the Western Wall is not only the remnant of what is left of the Second Temple. When the Third Temple will be built, and please God, it'll be quickly in our time, then that wall is not going to be destroyed. That is going to be the first wall of the Third Temple. So we're looking both, and when we go through the tunnel tours, which we're going to do on this tour. When you see the Western Wall itself, what you see in photographs, I believe this is correct, and if I'm wrong, you guys correct me. I think what you see in the photograph is about 180 feet, but the actual length of the Western Wall is a mind-boggling, I think, 1/3 1,600 feet. That's a very tiny area that you're looking at.
Right.
So the wall is constructed out of some of the largest stones ever used in construction in the world. But why did it have to be made out of such construction? To contain Ezekiel's temple of the third temple as described in Ezekiel 41 through 47. I'm just like losing my breath just describing this, but there's a reason why the second temple, what God says in a very interesting oracle by Haggai, that this place, that's what God's glory is going to be, the second temple. Well, what's so special? The second temple's final structure, we're going to see how it was built finally by Herod, rebuilt, made it possible so that the third temple, the final redemptive temple, is going to be, it's large enough, size of 32 football fields, so that the third temple is built there as well. And that's that kind of transition that we're going to be looking for throughout the Holy Land, throughout this tour.
There isn't a sports stadium in the world that will compare to this amazing place when it's rebuilt.
So here's the thing. I made a comment early on when we brought up the subject of what's going on in Israel right now and talking about, Kerry in the U.S. and the pressure it's being placed. And I use this term, painful concessions. And the question that I have for everybody, I have the question for us and I have the question for the audience as well, and I want to talk about this a little bit, is what painful concessions have the Arabs ever made? This is a question that really needs to be asked. And by the silence on the other end, the fact that neither of you are able to say anything when I ask that question speaks volumes.
There isn't any painful concessions. It's always been a concession that has to come from the state of Israel. We know that. It's always been that way.
So what's happening on the ground there, Rabbi? What is the sense that you're getting? I mean, it's got to be on everybody's mind. It's got to be in the newspapers. It's got to be on the radio, on Channel 2, on Channel 10, and so forth. This has got to be in the forefront. I know Ya'alon made some comments last week that were very inflammatory. I thought they were great. To other people, inflammatory. What's your take from what you're seeing going on in the land right now there?
It's brilliant. You would never know this from the. It's one of the things. It's like when you see the media about Israel, you think like there's like shooting or rockets flying. In Israel, it's a complete non-issue. See, what Kerry has done really is a blessing. Is that he's made himself completely irrelevant.
Right. That word.
I
got to carry a sign. How do you feel? How does it feel being irrelevant?
Exactly. Right. See, what he's done is by getting up and saying that. I mean, is there a people in history that has a greater right to a land, has a greater connection to a land than the people of Israel to the land of Israel? The answer is it does not exist. Yerushalayim, Jerusalem. We're going to tour the old city of Jerusalem. Jerusalem, in the 20th century, in the early 20th century, majority was Jewish. 23,000 Jews in 1906, according to the Ottoman census. Only 7,000 Muslims, 7,000 Christians. And the Jews fought for the old city of Yerushalayim, but the vast majority were Jews. We're going to see what happened. We're going to see what the Jewish quarter is like, and that, incidentally, the old city we see today is not the old city of the first temple. It was a little further south. We'll explain all that. But what's key is this. The big mistake that people are making is they're going, Americans, what do Americans think about Israel? What do Americans think about John Kerry? That's the wrong question. It's what do Israelis think? And Israelis realize that the Obama administration is irrelevant, that the proposals they have are completely, not just unrealistic, but they're silly. And therefore, in this country, they're not discussing it. That means this is not what's going on in the streets of the land of Israel. And therefore, the entire Obama administration, from what I can see, and I haven't done a census of this, but my anecdotal experience of speaking to people is people just don't care. Yes, it is very cute to see, Kerry coming here, and he made essentially a laughingstock out of himself by saying that Jewish communities in Jerusalem, was all Jewish. The Jews were thrown out of here in the War of Independence. And one of the in November 1947, the UN voted on the partition. Israel, if the Arabs had agreed to that partition, so it would have been, in a sense, in one way, a disaster if they hadn't gone to war, because we wouldn't have had many places that we can go into. The Western Galilee, certainly we wouldn't have had Jerusalem, we wouldn't have had the Negev. So what happened is that the Arabs didn't accept it. We went to war, and all these places became accessible to us. And now Yerushalayim is accessible to everybody, not just to Jews, but for Christians, to everyone around the world. So therefore, the entire Obama administration has become irrelevant. I am looking right now at the Temple Mount, but I'm also looking at the entire, really, everything, the whole eastern side of Jerusalem right now as I'm speaking. My mouth is facing the microphone, but my eyes are looking straight up. And what I'm seeing are cranes building and building and building. Because in this country, the sense is the following. What is the point of trying to appease the Obama administration? What is the sense in trying to halt Jewish families who want to build a home for their children who are getting married if it won't make a difference? Nothing will satisfy that administration. And therefore, why not build? And I'm just looking out of my window and I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cranes building magnificent buildings. That's just what I can see out of my window without even going to the window, because I'm on air with you right now. So under the Bush administration, when Bush was perceived as maybe a friend of Israel, they were destroying communities. And under the Obama administration, because it's perceived as non-friendly, they're building Jewish communities. It's absolutely fabulous.
Amazing. So this is what I wanted people to hear, because people assume, there's this assumption somehow that this is this is all that the Israelis think about. And the truth is that it gets much more play here than it does in Israel. I mean, that's always been true. Anytime I've been, I was actually standing on the Mount of Olives in 1993, right after those accords were signed, and the Pseudo-Stinians were out there waving their flags and, celebrating and so forth. But it's not as significant in the media in Israel as it is here.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And I'll just say this to the listeners. I don't care. Before, I'll tell you straight away. If we were doing this tour and it was before the Oslo Accords, we can go to the place where, according to tradition, is the exact place where Abraham encountered the 3 angels in Genesis 18. Mm-hmm. But because we've been blessed with these peace accords, that cannot be a part of our itinerary.
Well, sure. It's the same thing when we're going to be in Itamar. How far from Itamar is the tomb of Yosef?
Right.
And we can't go there.
Unless we had a military escort. I don't know if that could be arranged or not. I don't know. Yeah. We could go there, but only in the old days. You just go and you went, and it was not a problem. Yeah. There's an airport in Jerusalem. Most people don't know that Jerusalem had an airport. It still does. It's only not used for civilian use anymore. Right. But because we've been blessed with the peace accords, that airport is no longer used for civilians. Why? Because now, and we just saw it within the last 24 hours, and then another one where the terrorists in Gaza were shooting at, really far south in the Gaza Strip. They were shooting rockets into a southern area. It's an area we're not going to be. I'm not saying this so you should calm down. This is not going to be in the purview of anything you can see. But the Iron Dome shot them down. So we see what happened when Israel did the unimaginable thing, and that is to remove Jewish communities. That means appease terrorism, reward terrorism, incentivize terrorism. They shoot rockets. Could you imagine if they created a Hamas stronghold where they could launch rockets in Judea? I mean, it's so bizarre. Therefore, what happens is that even the person who might say, maybe you have to be, it became so irrelevant. Kerry made himself so irrelevant, and therefore what Boogie Alon did, who was Israel's defense minister, by saying that basically this obsession, I mean, here they are in Syria. Israel's basically a villa in the middle of a jungle. It's so peaceful here, it's so delicious here. But in Syria, just go to the north. They're bombing each other's funerals, they're bar mitzvahs, they're blowing each other up. I'm kidding about that. But
explain to the people, because I don't, people who have never been there, have never experienced this. But explain to people the difference between driving through driving through an area and seeing to the right of you as you're driving through the Judean hills, and then suddenly you see this lush valley with green, and you see, medjool date palms with the nets and these dates dripping, with the honey, hanging off, and then driving and going past an Arab village with tumbleweed and nothing growing. It's just amazing, the visual that you get.
The Talmud says in Tractate Sanhedrin, it discusses many signs of them that you will know that the Messianic age is soon upon us. And it goes through many things that we can observe that these are signs that it's coming soon. In the Gemara, the Talmud tells us, but there is no greater sign than the land is going to go give forth its fruit for the Jewish people. You have to know something, Holy Kindlech. We're going to see this in the tour. In the United States, it's a blessed land. It's a very fertile country. Very blessed. But when the Native American Indians planted in North America, the land in Florida or in Texas, it was very fertile for the Native Americans. When Europeans came there, it grew for them. It didn't care. The land in the United States doesn't care. But the land of Israel will only be fertile for the Jewish people. No other nation could disseminate this land. It was very important because bear in mind that before 1948, the last sovereign country in this little tiny place in Southwest Asia, the last country that ever had sovereignty in this land was the state of Israel in the year 70, when the Second Temple was destroyed. Question is why? Why didn't after all, Christianity saw Israel as a holy place, and Islam later on would say that this is a holy place. Why didn't they? They, after all, conquered this place. Why didn't they ever produce a country here? And the answer is that the country would not produce for them, and they could not sustain it because the country was arid for everyone. When we're on this tour, you're going to see trees literally so heavy with fruits, with date trees, just heavy, hanging down. Just like described, you're going to see animals with their udders hanging down with milk dripping out, just like literally chalav davash. You're going to see, just like it described in the Bible, that's what's happening here. And the Arabs are going, how did the Jews do this? It's a blessing from Hashem. It's from above. It's not from below.
It's true. Very true. We see that with, you see that at harvest time. With any of the harvests, the olive harvest, when you see, the vineyards now that have been planted and the beautiful wines that are being produced, it's just amazing. There are amazing visuals that you see that as you said, are only produced for the Jewish people.
Yeah,
because it's Am Segulah. Am Segulah. It talks about it in the Torah portions that we're reading now.
Yeah, one of the opportunities I've had, really, I'm very fortunate. For Ateret Kohanim, I'd given helicopter tours for American lawmakers. For Rick Perry, the governor of Texas, when he was running for president, and Huckabee. So I would give them tours in a helicopter. I didn't fly the helicopter. It would be a very bad situation. But I would show them what they're looking at, and also the strategic importance of Jewish communities throughout Judea and Samaria. And to see these lands from the air, we're not going to be doing this, but to see these lands from the air, to see the farms, to see the growth, to see what's going on, and to see the strategic importance of these Jewish communities throughout Judea and Samaria from the air is just absolutely mind-blowing.
This is one of the reasons why I thought it was so important, and not to scare our listeners, but this is why I thought it was so important to go to Itamar. And the fact that we're going to need to go with a special bus to Itamar, because it's in the Shomron, because it's in what some people consider, now it's the heart, it's the very heart of the land. I mean, literally, the Shomron, this area near Itamar, is the very center, the very heart of Israel. So much of what we read in the Tanakh took place there. You're talking about Itamar, the younger son of Aharon. You're talking about the tomb of Yosef. We're talking about Shechem. We're talking about, the mountain of blessing and the mountain of curses that we read about, that Rabbi Moshe and Leah can look out their window and see these two, so everything comes to life. But the fact is at the same time, these are areas that are under constant attack from the enemies of God's people.
Yeah. I just to say to people, you are much safer there than you'd be in New York. I'm not saying that just like this, but New York is, I think, America's largest, safest large city. I mean, there was some horrendous terror attacks going back quite a while ago in Itamar. So terrible attacks. I mean, but it's not like you're gonna. But it is a place where people are. Israel really has their hand on the situation. Of course, Hashem has His hand on this land, and you are going to be spellbound by what you're going to see. And please God, there'll be some really great openings for us to see some of the most extraordinary biblical places. And we're going to go right through the Bible as we go to these remarkable places. And imagine going to the Yam Kinneret, and suddenly, as you come to the southern part of the lake. You suddenly look up to the right and you see the towering Golan Heights just shooting up into the skies. It really just takes your breath away.
Yeah, I mean, and the same thing is true of, what was really spectacular for me is many times that I've been to the land, this last trip that I went on was the first time that I went to Masada. I just never had an opportunity to go down there.
It's an amazing experience.
And to see it. And so to stand on the top of Masada and to see, the Dead Sea, to look at the Roman encampments, to hear the story of how, these Jewish men stood against an army, is just amazing.
Rabbi, I'd like to get you to address a moment to the individual that has never gone to Israel. They've always wanted to go. It might be a bit of a sacrifice for them to try to make it there. For a moment, explain the true spiritual connection that happens to every person, especially the Jew, but for every individual that goes there. There is something that is transformative in the mind and the soul of a person when they go there. Can you just talk about it and give us a little history on it? Because the sages have said so many powerful things about the land, and so many of those who didn't even live in the land. They lived in France and Spain, et cetera, et cetera. But this yearning to return to the land, and when you get there, it is a powerful experience. And we're not just talking about some emotional thing. We're talking something deep that happens within a person.
I say this to the two of you. We're friends. We care about each other deeply. If I asked either of you, why do you care about the people you love? So I think you maybe you can encapsulate some answers, but the most profound reasons why you adore the people that you cherish, you would not be able to convey, digitize. It's very much the same thing in the land of Israel. It's when you're in Yerushalayim and you're in this place literally where heaven kisses earth, and it's really quite that way. There are 7 mountains in Yerushalayim, and you have the Mount Zion and Mount of Olives. It's like 2 shoulders on each side, and then you have the neck in the middle, which is Mount Moriah, where the Holy of Holies is. I mean, that is literally where heaven touches earth, and that's where Abraham brought his son for a sacrifice, coming through the Kidron Valley, which you're going to see. I'll lose it right here on air. Can I really convey such a thing to you? But when you're here and the Avira, the air of Eretz Yisrael just fills your mind, fills your heart, and you encounter what I know that the people who will join us are people who have faith, who have a deep love for Hashem, and want to infuse their lives with something that's eternal, that's meaningful. It means that you're there. You're there. This is not a model. It doesn't mean this is not like a rebuilding. Maybe they have, I don't know, in the United States that this is Lincoln's house and they rebuilt it, the log cabin. It looks like it. This is it. You're there. And you're going to encounter it. And
it's not Las Vegas.
No, definitely not. When you're talking about that, Well, when you're talking about that, and you're talking about not Lincoln's house, I mean, talk about the burnt house. I mean, you go into the burnt house and you realize that you're looking at a home that went through the destruction of Yerushalayim in the Second Temple period.
Yeah, it means the war from 66 that went to 70. People don't realize, because people think that maybe the Second Temple was like the First Temple. The First Temple's destruction was a cakewalk. It really was, compared to the Second Temple. That war that went from 66 is prophesied in Daniel. That's the last half a week. That war, by the time the Romans penetrated the walls of Yerushalayim and burst through, they had fought against the Jews for already 3 years. So they were very angry. They had lost legions. The Jews were fighting the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire headed, the emperor. That by the time of the end, you have Vespasian, who's the emperor. You had Titus, who was the general who eventually would become the emperor. He's the little horn, and you will see. This is not like we're going to show you this is weird. No, you're going to see the Romans were so angry when they came in. Not only did they destroy everything they burnt, destroyed the utter destruction is unimaginable. They came to the temple. I shared with you that the stones are this is not, if you look it up, these are the largest stones ever used in construction in human history. Why they had to be that big? Because they literally are holding up a mountain. You'll understand when you're there. The Romans then literally I don't even know how they did it, but the top of the wall, they start pushing off these giant stones. Some weigh, 30 tons, 40 tons, and you'll see the stones themselves as they came crashing down. So you'll see it, the burnt house. You'll see the destruction with your eyes. But again, it's always going to be that two-part. You're going to see the destruction, but you're going to see the soaring hope, and you're going to see the promise of redemption. Rabbi Akiva, I'll just share this with you, holy children of God. Rabbi Akiva, a great sage who lived during the 2nd century, he stood at another mountain. It's called Mount Scopus, overlooking, that's where Hebrew University is, overlooking the Temple Mount. He saw a fox running through the Holy of Holies. Could you imagine a fox, a rodent, running through the holiest place on earth? And his students were watching, and he began to smile. And the students were perplexed by that response. He says, "Why are you smiling, Rabbi?" And he said, just like it was prophesied, that terrible things would happen. I know for sure that all the prophecies of the nechama, of the wonderful things that will occur, will also take place. So that's why this experience that we're all going to share together is not only recalling the past, but understanding the soaring prophecies of the future. We'll all do this together. Please God.
So with that, Rabbi, that's an amazing setup for what we've decided to do next week, because we chatted a little bit the pre-show, and speaking of the redemptive process and speaking about looking to the future of this messianic age, we're going to hit some soaring texts next week. We're going to have you back on the show next week, and we're going to go through some of Yeshaya's amazing prophetic words as it relates to that messianic hope and the redemptive time that you're speaking about.
Rabbi, let's give them a taste, give them an opportunity to go in advance and study the text. So why don't you tell them? It's
so exquisite. I'll just say, I wouldn't even know where to begin, but just know this, holy children of the Most High. Yeshayahu means the salvation of our God. You will notice that Isaiah, unlike Samuel and Kings, which read as a narrative, as a storyline, which in a way makes it harder to understand where's the prophecy. It just seems like a very gripping story. Isaiah is very chopped up, and it's not even in chronological order. So that means Isaiah is ramming one chapter into another, sometimes completely out of order, for a very important redemptive reason. And therefore, in the sense, as these things, sort of these tectonic plates of prophecy slam together, they just shoot up into a mountain of prophecy that just blows you backward. And you find that in the three giant latter prophets of Isaiah, Ezekiel, and Jeremiah. Isaiah is messianic, which means the events there, we see the events there as events of the past, but there's a reason why they're chopped up. There's a reason why they're not necessarily in order, or why so much has been removed, because Isaiah is trying to bring out, is trying to collide together events in the past in order to move our eyes into the future. It's absolutely, it's exquisite. What did I say? I don't have my lexicon is not large enough to
tell them about next
this.
week, because we're going to have an amazing time. As Rabbi Singer says, it's going to be delicious.
Absolutely delicious. So as usual, it was an amazing time. We hope that you're able to start saving your shekels and join us on this amazing tour. But we want to give you, as we gave you a little bit of a taste of what it's going to be like on the tour, we want to give you a taste of what we just talked about, of that Messianic age and the redemptive process as we go into Yeshayahu next week with Rabbi Singer. I want to thank everybody for being with us. Thank you again, Rabbi, as always. Enjoy the rest of your time in the land with your family. We continue to pray Refuah Shlema on beautiful little Tehillah, Bat Shoshana.
Yes.
And what a beautiful little girl. I love seeing the pictures of her. You wouldn't think that there was anything, she's certainly not thinking about the things that we're praying for her for. You could see that she doesn't have a care in the world, and that's because she has a family like she has.
Yeah.
So I want to thank all the listeners again for being with us, and stay with us and stay tuned to next week as we go beyond
the Matrix.
The Matrix.